Hello everyone, in today's video I will going to show you the Italian game Giuoco Piano. It's an opening that it's still valid. It was invented a lot of 100 years ago and it's played also at highest level. I will going to show you two lines that are really sharp with a lot of possible sacrifice for white and for sure if black doesn't know his theory you will going to win a lot of games. So if you are interested, check this video. Before starting, I just want to say one thing. I opened this channel 3 weeks ago and I already reached 100 subscribers. So maybe it's not a huge achievement, but it matters a lot to me. So I want to thank really a lot my subscriber. And now let's go to the video. Okay, so we start with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, and here c3. We are preparing to strike in the center, and what we want to do is suffocate black pieces. So here the reply is knight f6. And here we strike, and here there is only one good reply that is taking. Let's say that maybe black wants to play bishop b6. Here we can simply take, and after knight g4 to regain the pawn, we can sacrifice on f7, give a check on g5, and then take back the knight. And after knight takes e5, we can go back on g3. Let's say queen f6, and castle. After h6, we can remaneuver the knight via h3 to the f4 square, and we are completely fine. So let's check the other reply, e per d4. Okay, on Hyper D4, there are two lines that I want to show you. The first one that we will talk about is E5. The second one is C per D4. And the difference is that, well, my suggestion is that if you don't know the theory, maybe if black doesn't know the theory on bishop on c per d4 is easier blunder for black, and on e5 it's is still easy for black to blunder, but it's more holdable. So my suggestion is to play c per d4 at lower level and maybe e5 at higher level, but still all the choices are possible. Also c per d5 per d4 is played also at higher level. So let's check first e5. So e5, we are kicking away the knight, and here there is only one good reply, that is d5, but let's check first some errors. So if knight g4, what we want to do is take in the center, and for example, if they give us a check, we just cover, and later on we will play h3, kick away the knight, and we always, and maybe also d5 and d6, and we always have idea like bishop g5. So for example, castle, we can kick away the knight, and after this bishop g5, and for example, if he plays bishop e7, only then we take on h6, and if he plays knight e7, same, and the last one, if he plays queen e8, same, we take the knight. And the reason for this is that we want first to take away the queen of the control of the f6 square. So this tempo with the bishop, it's not well, it's helpful. You can also play bishop per h6 first, but I mean, if this position is better, I suggest you to go for. So let's see other variation. If bishop b6 instead, we can develop the knight, or we can also play h3, is completely fine. And then if the knight goes away, it's the same variation that I showed you before. And if he sacrifice, we can simply take, and after take, maybe king g3 is better, but also knight per d4 is playable, and after queen h4, we can simply go on f3. Is strange, but it does his job. If he takes, we are fine. We can play g3, and if he takes with the queen, we happily trade, and we are up a piece, and life is good. So let's check other variation. Well, in this position, there is also knight h5 and knight g8. I will show you really briefly knight g8, but we already know that if a move like this happens, it means that someone did an error somewhere, and that someone is not us. So we can take, and after d5, we take, and bishop takes, we castle, and after knight f6, we gained the tempo, and we can give a check, and after, for example, knight e6, we can simply play bishop g5, or also knight c3. We are up a tempo, so let's say after bishop g5 and castle, we can even play knight c3 or take on f6. His structure is completely ruined, and we have a comfortable game. So let's check now knight h5. On knight h5, we can simply play knight g5, threatening the f7 pawn and threatening also the knight. So it's really easy, this one. And after, for example, knight per e5, that is threatening our bishop and also protecting the f7 square, we can take with the knight, threatening the queen and the rook. So after, for example, after knight takes, we can take first with the bishop and then take also the knight. And if queen e7, we can castle, and it's the same variation. Here knight takes, and we first pin the queen. So after well, if if he goes back, we can take the knight, and this position is completely winning. Then we will also take the other knight. The king, the black king, will not be able to castle, and we are fine. So let's check other variation now. Okay, here what black should do is counter attack in the center with d5, and here we can play bishop b5. We could also play bishop e2, but honestly, I prefer to keep the pieces active. So here we are pinning the knight, and black has to deal with the knight on f6. So after knight e4, we can take in the center, and after bishop check, I suggest you to move the knight on d2. And for example, after castle and castle, we can. We can check some variation just to give you an idea of some ideas in the position, some points of pressure, and situations that can occur after some moves. So really quickly, there is a bishop g4, and here we want to play queen a4, and now we are putting pressure on the knight and threatening to gain the bishop. So after bishop takes, after knight takes on d2, really important is to retake with the knight, because if we take with the bishop instead, he will first take the knight on f3, preparing queen g5, and also threatening our bishop. So if we first take the bishop, after queen g5, we are forced to play g3, and here there is a knight per d4, preparing bishop e4, and also knight f3 that will bring our king to the diagonal that now is opened. So let's go back a couple of moves. Here we want to take with the knight, and well, if black trades, we are happy because we have the bishop pair, and the knight is still a problem because then we will gain a pawn. So on this variation, we are fine. What could What black could do instead is play rook b8, preparing to meet knight bishop per c6 with b takes c6 and covering the bishop. And it's true that we will gain a pawn in this variation, but then after f6, our center will be destabilized. The position will be open, and we will no longer have the bishop pair. So I will show you quickly. Okay, take, queen takes. And after f6, we have some problems. We could play also f4, but then also the diagonal, the diagonal a7 g1 becomes weak, and after take and take we have some problems because we are not active. So even if we are up a pawn, I don't like this position in which we have to defend and we are not developed. Another good idea, instead of taking the pawn, is I will show you, is going first in this position, play f4. Now, the problems for black are always the same. We are threatening to take the knight and then to gain the pawn. And the situation is different from before because because now we have knight on f3 that we didn't have in the previous situation. So, for example, after a6, we can happily trade, and after f3, f6, play knight f3, and if he takes, we can take with the pawn, but we can also take with the knight, and we are completely fine in this position. And after taking back, we reach a position that is really playable. We are up a pawn. The center is a bit unstable, maybe after the push on c5. But black needs to do a lot of work to be able to push c5. And we can always count on the push on a3. And then what we have to keep in mind is that the pawn on c7 is weak, the diagonal a2 g8 is weak, and if we can manage to trade one bishop, is a really good thing, and if we can do that, most likely we will going to win this game. So let's check now c per d4. Okay, on c per d4, there is a vital tempo that is bishop b4, and now we can cover with the knight and sacrifice the pawn on e4 because, black takes. We can castle, and here black has to know his theory. A natural move that is an error is take with the knight, and after take, maybe black wants to be greedy, so take on c3 and threatening our rook. And in this position, we have to stay focused on two things: putting pressure on the knight on c6 and not let black king castle. So here we sacrifice the rook and we play bishop a3. And let's see other some variation. Well, the possible moves here are bishop takes a1, d6, d5, and queen f6. So if black takes, we can simply give a check on e1, and knight blocks, and we can take with the rook, and he will lose the queen. If he doesn't want to lose the queen, then after king f8, we can simply take on d7, and we win the queen. So bishop a1 is not possible. Let's check now d6. Here on d6, we can first put pressure on the knight. We will attack the bishop, but then after bishop a5, we want to play queen a4, putting pressure on the knight and threatening d5, so because the knight is pinned. And once the knight falls, also the bishop will fall. So after bishop d7, we can push, and after the knight moves, we will take on a5. So let's check now d5. On d5, it's pretty much the same thing. First, we play bishop b5, and if black takes the rook, we give a check. bishop e6 first, not forced, but otherwise he will lose the queen. And after queen c2, really important move, we are threatening to take the knight and then take the rook also. So I will show you if he doesn't do anything. We are threatening to win the rook. So black for sure will go for queen d7. After queen d7, knight e5, we are threatening the same thing, and here he will have to sacrifice the queen. If he wants to go back, for us is fine. We can take with the bishop, forcing to take, or and then we will take with the queen. Or he can simply move, but then after knight per f7, there is a mate that is bishop a7, e7. So let's check now queen f6, and then what should black play. Here on queen f6, the ideas are pretty much the same. First, rook c1. After bishop a5, we play first d5 to dislodge the knight, and after knight e7, we play queen e2. We can play also queen a4, but queen e2, I think, has an easier idea. So queen e2. For example, d6, because he wants to castle. And now we first give a check. And on c6, really important move is not to take, because if we take, he can castle. So here, before taking, we play bishop b2, threatening the queen. Now the queen has also to guard the g7 square, so queen g6, and after then we take. And the difference is that if they castle now, we can take the knight, and well, if they takes, we can take back with the bishop and win the rook. So let's check now what should black play. Here, black should play d5, and after check and knight e7 and bishop e7, we can simply place our bishop on d3, and it is a game. After castle, we can well, we can do a bunch of stuff, but maybe also h3 to not let the light square bishop develop, or b1 to rook b1 to bond the bishop to the defense of the b7 square. And after, for example, after rook e8, we can already go for knight g5 to put pressure on the h7 pawn. And if they take, we can. If they take, we can take first with the bishop, and well, they can't take our bishop because then it's mate. So the last question is what if black takes with the bishop and not with the knight? Let's check it. Here, if black takes with the bishop, we don't take back right now, because then if we take back, black will play d5. So before taking back, we will play d5. And here there are knight e5 or bishop f6. So let's check bishop f6. Here we don't take the knight, we play rook e1 to develop faster, and after castle, we can take the knight, and well, once the knight goes on e7, we can play d6. Only to we want to play d6 because in this way, for black, it will be harder to develop his pieces. So after c per d6, we can also play bishop g5. Bishop g5 and start to create an attack in the king side. And we don't take back, because if we take back, black has bishop as a knight f5, and once we retreat the queen, for example, queen d2, he will be able to. Well, he will be able to activate, and this is a bad position for us. So that's all I wanted to show you for this game, for this opening. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you like the video, feel free to leave a like or a comment. And see you in the next video.